أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد. اللهم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي يا أبا عبد الله، يا غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء يا حسين. حسين يا حسين. Everyone together. حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حبيبي يا حسين، نور عيني يا حسين. لعن الله الظالمين لكم سيدي يا أبا عبد الله، أمنا من لجأ إليكم. فيا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. إمام المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف in زيارة الناحيان, where he graphically describes the events of Ashura and the pain and the agony in which Imam al-Hussein Salamullah alayhi and his holy household went through on that terrific day of Ashura. He says, As-salamu ala shayb al-khadib. Peace be upon the gray hair that was dyed with blood. As-salamu ala al-khad al-tarib. Peace be upon the cheek that struck the dust. As-salamu ala al-badan al-salib. Peace be upon the butchered body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. As-salamu ala rasil marfu'. Peace be upon the head that was carried upon a lance. Everyone together. As-salamu ala al-Husayn. ما شاء الله وعلى علي وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. وعلى عقيلة الحسين زينب وعلى أخيها وكافلها بالفضل العباس ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا مولانا أبي عبد الله الحسين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه، وجعلنا الله وإياكم من الطالبين بثأره مع وليه المنتظر القائم من آل محمد صلوات الله وسلامه عليهم أجمعين. اللهم صل على Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Fajr, verse number 27, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'innah, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah, fadkhuli fi ibadi, wadkhuli jannati. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this holy verse, O reassured soul, return back to your Lord, well pleased and pleasing Him, and enter among my righteous servants and enter my paradise. It is said that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once saw a group of men gathered. They were in a large crowd. He approaches them and he asks them to the reason behind this gathering. What are they doing? Why are they standing here? They tell him, we are in a funeral, we are burying someone. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, he walks in this crowd until he reaches the grave where they are burying this person. He sits next to the grave on his knees and he begins to cry. And he cries so much to a point where his clothes become filled with his tears, soaked with his tears. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alih then points to the grave and he says, for a day like this, prepare yourselves. It is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih who also says, إِذَا مَاتَ الْمُؤْمِنُ قَامَتْ قِيَامَتُهُ. When the believer passes away, when the believer leaves this dunya, his resurrection begins. There may be a misconception that many of us may have when it comes to death, to understanding the reality of death, of maut. We think that the akhirah, the afterlife, begins on the day of judgment, the day of hisab, the day of iqab, the day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds us accountable for all of our actions. While truly, in reality, death, the afterlife, begins right when the person's soul leaves this dunya and travels on to the next. This is when the next stage begins in Alam al-Barzakh, when we travel on to the next realm. Death, brothers and sisters, is an absolute certainty in this life. No matter how big we are, no matter how high of a status we think we have, no matter how much money we have, all of us, in the end of the day, are going to die and leave this dunya. All of us, no exceptions. If the greatest of people, of creations, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took their souls to the next world. And if there is anyone more worthy to live, it is them. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. Our seventh Imam, Imam al-Kadhim, salamullahi alayhi, once while standing next to a graveside, he points to the grave, similarly to what the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi did. And he says, indeed, something like this, referring to death, is worthy of its beginning being spent in abstinence, in taqwa, in God consciousness, in doing that which is required from you, doing the wajibat and staying away from the muharramat. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam would often take this scene and use it as a moment to teach the people, to give a lesson, to show them the reality of what they are about to face, to prepare themselves for the hereafter, to know in the end of the day, regardless what I have done, regardless what I have, I am going to end up in this hufra, in this pit. And it is up to me, through my actions, through my a'mal, the way I live my life, the decisions and choices I decide to take in this life, whether this grave of mine is going to be rawda min riyad al-jannah, a garden from the gardens of paradise, or hufra min hufar al-niran, or a pit from the pits of the hellfire. It's my amal, my action in the end of the day, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes into consideration. And we've mentioned many narrations in the previous nights regarding this. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most great of you in the eyes of Allah are those who have taqwa, God consciousness. This God consciousness will lead you to places. This God consciousness will give you your rewards in the hereafter. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who have reached this level of taqwa, insha'Allah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. With that being said, dear brothers and sisters, death is the final call. Death is when our a'mal, they're no more longer taken. The book is now closed. Our time in this world has ended. So we can't add on top of that. For that being said, if we were to think of the blessings which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us and bestowed down upon each and every one of us, what are our priorities in this life? What is something that we really appreciate? Our families, our children, parents, something we really care about, our job, our career. It may be something related to materialistic gains. We think that this is the most important thing in our life, when really and truly the most important thing in our life is something which we take for granted, which is what? Which is time. Which is the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me in this dunya, this 20, 30, 40, 60, 70, 80 years until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to take me away. Al-waqt is the most important blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. And the moment I understand this is when I truly begin to act differently. Why is that? Because I know that any act in which I perform in this dunya, it is what is either going to lead me to the paradise, to Jannah, or to the hellfire. So I need to take advantage of this time. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in various different verses, He speaks about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an example, in Surah Al-Kahf, in verse 23, He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدًا. And do not say to anything that indeed you are going to do that tomorrow. That you are going to postpone whatever act is required from you, which a lot of us do, by the way. We may not take care of our salat the way we should. We postpone, inshallah, starting from tomorrow, I'm going to start to improve. Inshallah, from tomorrow, I'm going to start waking up for Salat al-Fajr. Inshallah, from tomorrow, I'm going to stop this sin, and so on and so forth. I keep postponing until it's too late. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has closed this door for me. Until it is my time to leave this dunya. That's why Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, he has a saying in where he says, "Inna al-layla wan-nahar ya'malani feek." Indeed, the day and the night are working with you. What does that mean, working with you? That they are taking from you. You are growing older. Your time is limited. Every second that is passed, you can't get back. Every minute that is passed, you can't get back. فَعْمَلْ فِيهِمَا وَيَأْخُذَانِ مِنْكَ فَخُذْ مِنْهُمَا. That you are required to take from this time. خُذْ مِنْهُمَا. Take it from them. How do I take from this time? To do what is required from me in this dunya. To seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To improve myself. To try and reach the levels of perfection that we've been talking about in all aspects in my life. In the end of the day, when our time arrives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to tell Israel to give this person a few minutes so he can repent. Maybe he'll rethink, reevaluate his situation. It's not a soccer game where there's stoppage time at the end, where Israel is going to hold a board and tell you have 5 minutes remaining. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses it, game over. You're done. Are you ready to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? This is the question that we should constantly be asking ourselves. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, one time the great companion Abu Dharr al-Ghafari came to him and he tells him, Ya Rasulullah, give me advice. And this was the way that the companions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam were. When they would see the Prophet, when they would see the Imams alayhim salam, they would come to them, asking them for help, asking them for words of wisdom, words of inspiration, to teach them, to give me something that I can benefit from. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he tells Abu Dharr, Ya Abu Dharr, kun ala umurika ashah minka ala durhamika wa dinarik. Oh Abu Dharr, be more greedy when it comes to your life, to your time, more than it is when it comes to your wealth and making money. A lot of us, when it comes to the dunya, when it comes to the materialistic aspect, we're very greedy. We want to make every single penny we can. We want to make bank. Why isn't it that we use this mentality when it comes to the practical part of applying the Sharia law? Why aren't we being greedy with this time that I do not want to let any second pass by other than me using it in a proper way, in a way which is permissible, in a way which helps me see closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is the way I need to look at it. This is the way I need to view it. Similar to the many sayings we have, Al-waqtu kas-sayf in lam taqta'hu qata'ak, that the time is like a sword. If you don't cut it, if you don't break it, it will break you. How will it break you? It's going to break you because it's taking from you. In the end of the day, you're not going to be youth your whole life. You're going to grow. You're going to have so many obligations that you're going to have to take care of, your family, your children. You don't have the same energy you have now. You don't have the same power. You don't have the same motivation and ambition. That's why this period, your youth specifically, is the most important to take advantage of. Because you may work all your life, you want to make money, and then when you finally have money, you don't have your youth anymore. You don't have the ability to go around and travel and do what you've always dreamed of. You made it, you made bank, but you can't use this money because you can't travel. You're too tired. You're not healthy anymore. That's why we are required to take advantage of this time. So inshallah, throughout this discussion, I would like to focus on a number of points. The first is, why is having too much free time a negative thing and a bad thing? And the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam speak about and condemn. The second is, how does Islam view laziness? The third is, what is considered as a waste of time? What falls under that category? And the fourth is, how do the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam teach us to take advantage of this time and to distribute this time accordingly? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So why is having too much free time a negative thing? Why is it something that can affect me in a bad way? It's simple. If you really think of it and reflect, it's at that time when you are the most vulnerable. When you have so much free time and you're not doing anything and you're just sitting, Shaitan, through the power of imagination, through the faculty of imagination, which the ulama, they call the satanic power, because this is how Shaitan comes to us, through this imagination, tries to show us this picture, tries to show us how this is good for us, how he tries to show us that this is something that will bring me khair. When I am alone, all of these emotions of mine are heightened to the maximum of levels. That's why a lot of the times when a person, wal'iyadhu billah, he wants to do something which is not permissible, something which is haram, it's when they're in their free time, when they're alone specifically. They think no one's watching them. They think no one's going to tell them anything. The power of imagination, the faculty of imagination takes over, because the aql, unfortunately, is not able to lead all of these faculties to the proper way, to the proper tariq, to tariq al-haq. So we start to lose this fikr, and we take these wrong choices in life. Because we think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not watching. We think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot see what I am doing. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fi kulli makan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala akbar min kull shay, as we mentioned yesterday. But when I am in that state where I have nothing to do, and Shaitan, through the power of imagination, starts to take over my mind, Allahu Akbar, what I can do, what I have the power to do, if my aql is not leading these emotions, and if I'm not channeling these emotions through a proper way. This is what happens when you're alone. That's why the ulama of akhlaq, they say that it is not recommended for a person to sit alone, to sleep alone, to eat alone, for this reason. So it's very easy for the person to sin when they are in such state, when they don't have nothing occupying their mind, when they're empty, they have faragh, emptiness. This is what it leads to. Laziness is in Arabic kasal. And it is the leading factor for one's failure in this life. For one not being able to be successful as an individual, both in this dunya and in the akhirah. No one goes around to tell people how lazy they were and how nagging around and how proud they feel of themselves, of wasting time and not being productive. It's not something that attracts people. While on the other hand, when people see how an individual, I'm not talking about just from the Islamic perspective, when you see people successful in life, CEOs, businessmen, athletes, a lot of them, you read their autobiographies and their stories, they say, wake up from the morning, not waste a single minute. 5 a.m., I'm training, I'm doing this, I start my day. It's this mentality. They're not lazy, they're putting in the effort, they're putting in the work. They're putting in the work, this is the result. They're going to be successful. A lot of these famous athletes, any basketball fans here? Kobe Bryant, if you read his story, there's something called the Mamba mentality, right? The Mamba mentality. He would wake up every morning, 4 a.m. His teammates would say this. Before the official training would start, 4 a.m. he already did his workout, maybe two workouts even. And then his teammates would come, and he's already done. He's already sweating. He's put in the blood and the work and everything required. Why is it that we look at these people, non-Muslims, and look at how much dedication and time they give to their profession, whatever it is? Why aren't we the same when it comes to our religion? We want to be successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, I want you to be successful. When we speak about perfection, it's not just perfection in your salat and your akhlaq and the way you recite Quran and the way you present yourself in social settings and whatnot. It's perfection in every aspect in your life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be successful individuals. But that requires for us to put the time and the energy and not waste a single second. Use it to seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Use it in a positive way. Do not just be lazy and say, I have nothing. There's a lot of people who say this saying, I want to kill time. And it really gets me furious when I hear someone say that. I want to kill time. Why would you want to kill time? You need to use this time for something. Study, read. Enjoy your time with your family in a halal permissible way. But use this time. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you it. And in any second, as we mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take it away from you. Because your time in this world is limited. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, in a tradition, he says, Al-kasalu yadurru bid-deen wad-dunya. That kasal, laziness, affects you when it comes to your religion, because you become lazy to pray, lazy to fast, lazy to read Quran, lazy to seek knowledge, as well as lazy in the dunya, because you're not motivated to do anything. Nothing moves you. This is what kasal leads to. This is the dangers of kasal and laziness and not using this time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to be successful individuals. Imam al-Baqir salamullahi alayhi, he says, إني لأبغض الرجل أن يكون كسلانا عن أمر دنياه. That the Imam is saying, I dislike an individual who is kaslan, who is lazy when it comes to his dunya. He's not speaking about the akhirah. Even in your dunya, in this life that you live in, this materialistic life, that I don't like a person that is lazy, is not trying to be successful and reaching high goals in his life. Because we need to aim high. There's a story about one of our ulama, and it is mentioned that this person was a very knowledgeable scholar. He was a alim, he was an ayatullah, and he was looked upon. He was looked highly and respected between the people and between ahlul ilm. So one time his son came to him and he told him, "Oh father, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I pray for Allah to give me the tawfiq to be like you. In terms of your ilm, in terms of your akhlaq, in terms of the way you lecture, you speak to people. MashaAllah, you're a very good example that I would like to follow." You know what the father told him? You're going to fail. Right away. You'd expect a father to say, may Allah give you the tawfiq, may Allah help you, you can make it here, you'll be successful, and so on and so forth. He told him, you're comparing yourself to me to be successful? Do you know how I reached this level? Which in my eyes is nothing. Because I placed Imam Jafar al-Sadiq salamullahi alayhi as my example. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with this amount of knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me this tawfiq. This is about aiming high. I'm aiming to be like the Imam. The Imam Salamullahi alayhi who manifest the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imam Salamullahi alayhi who was Waliullah. The Imam Salamullahi alayhi which is the rope between man and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how I should look at things. From this perspective, from this lens, this is how I am successful when I aim high. And this is the way we need to bring up our children. This is the way we need to think. We need to have this mentality. Because we need to be successful Muslims. We need to succeed as an ummah, as individuals, and as a community, as a brotherhood and sisterhood, as one strong community. How are we going to be strong if we don't have high goals and high ambitions? We're not going to be strong. We're always going to be where we are. That's why I need to aim high. And I need to make advantage of every single second that is passing by. Now, I know some of you may question, how would the Imam say something like this, that he wants us to take care of our dunya affairs? Doesn't this go against what the Quran speaks about? Doesn't this go against what the Ahlul Bayt speak about when they condemn this dunya and they say don't follow this dunya, and this dunya is la'ib wa lahu, it's all play and enjoyment and whatnot? How does this work? In the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they differentiate between two types of dunya. A dunya which is dunya madhmuma, and a dunya which is dunya mamduha. What is the difference between the two? The dunya which is madhmuma, it's the dunya which is condemned and looked down upon. It is the dunya which all I am thinking about is materialistic gains. This dunya where it is taken away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not present in this dunya. When all I'm thinking about how to make the dollar, whether it's in a haram way, in a halal way, I don't care, as long as I make it. Whilst on the other hand, we have the dunya al-mamduha, the praised dunya, is the dunya which helps you see closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The dunya which in it, I cannot wait to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to stand in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and supplicate to Him and talk to Him. Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, he wanted this dunya where he could just sit and talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wanted to be in the presence of God. This is the dunya al-mamduha. This dunya is acceptable. We can seek this dunya. We can strive to be successful in this dunya. Even when I'm working, even when I'm going to my job and putting in long hours, even when I am studying for years and years and I want to be successful in whatever career I decide to choose, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to be successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells me it's okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells me I can do this. This dunya is okay as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in the picture. When I'm presented with an opportunity, a job, let's say, and this job pays really well, it's a really good opportunity. If you look at it from a materialistic perspective, I can be successful overnight. But at the same time, I know that if I were to take this job, as an example, let's say my boss won't allow me to pray. I'm not allowed to pray. It comes with consequences that I can't perform my salat. Can I take this? Is this the dunya al-mamduha? Of course not. This is what we mean dunya al-madmuma, like this. This is an example of the dunya al-madmuma, the condemned dunya. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't tell you to reject the opportunity just like that. No, because it's going to take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you were able to pray and you had that good opportunity, go ahead, feel free. Any act you perform, just going to work every single day with the intention that you are doing so, qurbatan ila Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to provide for your family, to be able to bring your family food to the table, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you ajr for that. When you study and you go to university and you say, I am studying because I want to serve the religion somehow, in some way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give you reward in those hours you put into studying. Even though it's related to the dunya, right? The hadaf, the goal behind it is to be successful in this dunya, but you're getting ajr for the akhirah because the intention. See the importance of intention. Niyatul mu'min khayrun min amalih. Sometimes the intention of the human being is more important than the act itself. And it is what gives it value. Perhaps a person may have the intention to attend the majlis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein tonight. And for some reason, something happened and they weren't able to attend. Their car broke down, emergency occurred. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the reward for attending this majlis because of their intention, because their niyyah was sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, in this case, when our intention is to do whatever we are doing in this dunya for Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward me. That's why we have narrations that speak about this. Al-kaddu ala ayalihi kal-mujahid fi sabilillah, as the tradition says, that the one who works hard and strives to provide for his family gets the reward of the mujahid, the martyr in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the ajr one gets. Even though it's dunya, right? But this dunya is praised. It's dunya mamduha. It's not the dunya that is condemned, because I am using my time, number one, and I'm using it to seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And this was the life of the Imams alayhim salam. It's not like the Imam salamullah alayhi didn't used to live and didn't work and didn't put in long hours. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he led a successful trade. We all know the story of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. One time, a man by the name of Safwan al-Thawri, a companion, he sees Imam Sadiq salamullah alayhi from far. At first he couldn't recognize him. He saw a man working in his land. He seems very tired, sweating. It seems like he's been doing this for a long time, taking care of his land, his crops, his farm. And there are his two children next to him. This man comes to the Imam and sees that it's Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. He tells him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, what are you doing? You have two children here. Why are you working this hard? What's going on? Why are you putting so much work and energy? Just let them take over, let them help you. The Imam salamullahi alayhi, he tells him that, why should I do so? Why should I let them? And it is a responsibility for me to take care of them. It is a responsibility for me to provide for them. It is a responsibility upon me to work and put the time and the energy and to use this time. If I were to die in a state like this, I will die a state, I will have the status of a martyr. The words of the Imam. The Imam wants me to work. The Imam wants me to be successful. But to keep in mind that it is for Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be on your mind. Anything you do. All the time. That's how, when we're talking about these levels of perfection, that's how you reach those levels of perfection. It's not by praying 100 rak'ahs. It's not by doing this mustahab or reciting 100 verses of the Quran or whatever act it is. It's by following the Sharia law accordingly. It's by doing your wajibat, staying away from the muharramat. Simple. Simple equation. Or it sounds simple. But are we actually doing it? Another question to ponder upon. Sallu ala Muhammad. And when we speak about activity, and when we speak about time and using this time in a proper way, it's not just for our worship, as we just mentioned. It's not just to seek closeness to Allah in this way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well wants us to take care of ourselves, take care of our bodies, the body and the mind and the soul. The body to be stronger,
to take care of ourselves, to exercise, to put in the effort. I know all those gymaholics, they'll love this. Those who love to work out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants a mu'min who is qawi. And there are narrations that speak about this. Al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun min al-mu'min al-da'if. The mu'min who is strong is better, is greater than the mu'min who is da'if, who is weak. So it's not just about seeking knowledge and improving myself intellectually and spiritually. It's all one package. I also need to take care of my body. I also need to put in some effort when it comes to that, because it all has an effect. It all has an effect on the ruh, on the nafs. Everything's related. And as we just mentioned, there's many narrations that speak about this. And activity does not just refer to the physical, but also the intellectual activity. And the Quran warns us about this intellectual laziness. You know, one of the problems that couples face in this day and age is this intellectual laziness. A lot of couples, sometimes they say, well, I'm not getting along with my spouse. One of the reasons why, because we're not engaging in any conversations, proper conversations, intellectual conversations, something that is something about the religion, something about the Ahlul Bayt, something about the Quran, something about the world. Our conversations are dead. This intellectual laziness, the Quran warns us about. The hadith of the Ahlul Bayt warn us about. They want us to tafakkur. They want us to discuss the matters of the Ahlul Bayt. One of the companions by the name of Fudayl bin Yasar, one time, Imam al-Sadiq salamullahi alayhi, he comes to him and he tells him, أَتَجْلُسُونَ وَتَتَحَدَّثُونَ? Do you gather? Do you sit and discuss? He tells him, نعم يا ابن رسول الله. The Imam salamullahi alayhi, he tells him, إِنَّ تِلْكَ الْمَجَالِسُ أَحِبُّهَا. These gatherings I love. I appreciate. Until the Imam says, احيوا أمرنا رحم الله من أحيا أمرنا. Remember our cause, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on those who do so. We need to be from those who remember the cause of the Ahlul Bayt. We need to be of those who learn the ulum and the ma'arif of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So a lot of people may face this. They're not intellectually active. Intellectual laziness is a real thing. That's why we need to educate ourselves. This is why we need to utlub al-ilm. And we spoke last time. There are many narrations that speak about the importance of seeking knowledge and improving one's knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in the end of the day, it's this knowledge that gives me a better understanding of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, who the Imam salamullahi alayhi is. And when I have a proper understanding of who the Imam is, when I have a proper understanding who Allah is, the creator of the world, the master of the day of judgment, that's when I begin to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's when I begin to look at things differently. That's when I begin to do everything that my beloved wants. This is the relationship of love that I need to build with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That relationship of love is built through this ilm and ma'rifah, practical application of this knowledge that I have. This is how I have this level of ishq for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because true love is only directed towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and none else. This is the definition of true love. It's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qurbatan Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was what Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi in the battle of Karbala did. Ilahi taraktul khalqa turran fi hawaka. Just for you, just because I love you, just because I want to see you, just because I want to be with you. This pleases you, Ya Allah, let it be. I will sacrifice everything. I will give everything. How do I reach that level? It's through seeking knowledge and through practically applying this. It's not just about having this ilm, as well as the ma'rifah. And yesterday, we differentiated between the two, between ilm and ma'rifah. The fourth question is, how does Islam advise us to organize our time? We spoke about the importance of making use of this time, using it in a way which pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a way which can inshallah aid in us reaching high levels, inshallah. Is there any tips that the Imams alayhi salam give us? Well, there's a hadith by Imam al-Kadhim salamullahi alayhi. He tells us how to organize our time. The Imam says, اجتهدوا في أن يكون زمانكم 4 ساعات. Work so that your day can consist of 4 hours. ساعة لمناجاة الله, an hour to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to worship God. وساعة لأمر المعاش, and an hour for earning your livelihood. وساعة لمعاشرة الإخوان الثقات الذين يعرفونكم عيوبكم, an hour to spend with your brothers and sisters, but not any brothers and sisters, not any friends, those who actually care about you, those who will show you your flaws, those that will perform al-ma'ruf and nahy al-munkar to you, to help you come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to show you when you have done a mistake. Lastly, وَسَاعَةً تُخْلُونَ فِيهَا بِلَذَّاتِكُمْ بِغَيْرِ مُحَرَّمٍ, an hour to enjoy yourselves, have fun, go out, obviously in a permissible way, in a halal manner. If you are to distribute your day in this way, this is when you are making full use of your time. And when we say hour, it's not literal, it's not by the word. It can be 6 hours of work, 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever. But you need to understand how to organize your day according to this narration. This is the tip. You need to be thankful of this time in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you. You need to be respectful of the appointments. Because some of us don't care about this time, we're so bad when it comes to appointments. When it's time, when it's dhuhr time, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling me to have this appointment right now to pray to Him, to talk to Him, it's serious. I need to have it on my schedule. The adhan, it's prayer time. I have an appointment with God. It's time to pray, to stop everything, whatever I am doing, no matter what it is. There's nothing greater than my salat at this current moment. To stop it, go perform wudu and stand on the prayer mat. This is how I respect time. When it comes to respecting the appointments of others, a lot of people, they don't care. They tell a person, well, I'm coming over at 8 p.m. I know especially in the Lebanese communities, we have terrible timings, so 8 means 10 p.m. Why is it like that? Because we don't care about appointment. We don't care about time. There's a very nice story about Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah ta'ala alayh. His son says this, that the Imam, he was very organized when it came to his time. He had a strict schedule. He'd say, if you want to know how my father's schedule is, just look at the day before. He never changes it. It's always the same. He has an hour for his studying, an hour to teach, an hour for meetings, an hour for his family, an hour for worship, so on and so forth. He's very organized when it comes to time. One time, we had an accident in the house and the sink broke down. We needed a plumber. So the Imam called the plumber and he told him, can you come and fix this sink? He told him, yes, I can. Tomorrow, what time? 8 a.m. He told him 8 a.m. And the Imam specifically told him, be there on time. 8 means 8. Next day came. It's 8:05. This guy's still not here. He suddenly knocks on the door. Imam Khomeini opens the door and he tells him, Salaam alaikum, can I come in, fix the problem? The Imam doesn't let him enter. He tells him, I told you 8. When I tell you 8, it means 8. Respect this. Obviously, he didn't yell at him. He didn't get angry or upset at him. But he taught him a lesson. When you give people appointments, respect these appointments. And he made him come the next day to fix it. Why is it that we don't care about time? We don't care about others' time. We think we can waste it the way we want. It's something that we need to think of seriously. Now, when it comes to how to organize this time, Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi, he says as well, Allah fi nadmi amrikum. Have nidam, be organized when it comes to how do I organize this time. This can differ from person to person. Everyone has his own way. You have an individual who works by task, by a calendar, who writes on a paper, pen and paper. I have this task to finish. I have a meeting today. I have this person to see. I have an appointment. This day and age on your phone. Everyone has his style. But make sure you remember whatever. If you have a good memory, khair inshallah, good for you. If you can't, write down. There's no problem in doing so. It's not aib. It's not something looked down upon. Secondly, is to distribute and proportion this time accordingly. So you know this assignment requires from me 7 or 8 hours, let's say. I don't give it half an hour and give 7 hours to watch television. Distribute it accordingly. I know this task takes a couple of hours. I give it 2 hours. I don't give it 10 minutes. This is how I organize my time as well. And thirdly, is to make sure I have time for all of these tasks. Or if I don't, then put a schedule for a different day for whatever task I have. But don't just put a number of tasks and don't give them your proper time. This is how you make advantage of your time. This is when you're successful. When you give whatever you are doing, your all. Let it be prayer, let it be study, let it be recitation of the Quran, whatever it is. This is how you make advantage and make use of this time. And subhanallah, when we go to Karbala and we look at the story of Karbala, we see how the companions of the Ahlul Bayt, especially those who changed sides on the day of Ashura, made advantage of that time that they spent with Imam Hussein during those days or hours leading to Karbala. One of those was Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, who we mentioned, we spoke about his story. He stopped Imam al-Hussein from entering Kufa. Al-Hurr, when crunch time came, when it was time, when it was that moment to choose between Jannah and Nar, he was able to use that time in a way of reflection and reflecting, contemplating, thinking, this time I have right now, this moment can change my destiny. These 10 minutes, it's a life changer. I either go to Jannah or either go to paradise, either go to the hellfire. This is when we speak about reflection and tafakkur sa'a. Tafakkur sa'a khayr min ibadat 70 sana, as the tradition says. This is what we mean by it. This is the true definition of it. Using this time and letting it change your destiny. These majalis, these gatherings, brothers and sisters, can have great influence on us. These majalis can change this destiny of ours. This majalis can make us think. It's an hour lecture, an hour time. But an hour, the same way, it's an hour reflection. An hour to see, where do I stand? Do I stand in the camp of Yazid or in the camp of Imam al-Hussein? And if I were during that time, will I attack the Imam of my time? Or would I not? Something to reflect about. Because Shimr la'natullah alayh, he saw the Imam of his time in front of him. And yet he committed the greatest of crimes, beheading Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayh. Am I hurting the Imam of my time right now? Something to ponder upon. Use this time to reflect about this. The importance of reflection is, we can't stress how important it is. Imam al-Mahdi, ajalallah ta'ala farajahu al-sharif, may Allah hasten his reappearance. In the ziyarah remembering the infant Abdullah al-Radi' who we commemorate tonight, who we remember tonight, the son of Imam Hussein, the baby of Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. He says, Salamun ala Abdullah al-Radi' al-Marmi al-Sari' المتشحط دما والمصعد بدمه إلى السماء المذبوح بالسهم في حجر أبيه لعن الله راميه حرمل بن كاهل الأسدي وذويه. Peace be upon Abdullah the infant, the defenseless target, the one soaked in blood and raised to the sky with his blood, the one slain by an arrow while in his father's arms. May Allah curse his shooter Harmala ibn Kahil al-Asadi. Imam al-Rida salamullahi alayhi, he says, Inna yawm al-Hussein aqraha jufunana. The day of Hussein makes our eyes weep, makes us cry blood. Ya Imam, Ya Sahib al-Zaman, the words of Imam al-Mahdi, لأن تبنك صباحا ومساء ولا أبكين عليك بدل الدموع دما. I lament you day and night, and I shall weep for you with blood instead of tears. We send our condolences to the Imam of our time. عظم الله لك الأجر سيدي يا أبا صالح المهدي. These are the majalis of Imam Hussein. These are the majalis that Imam Mahdi attends. These are the majalis that Imam Mahdi blesses. These are the majalis that Imam Mahdi loves. The majalis of his grandfather, Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, who on a night like this was ready to sacrifice his infant child, Ali al-Asghar. It is said that Imam al-Sadiq, whenever he used to commemorate his grandfather, Imam al-Hussein, he used to order the people to bring him an infant child so he can raise him up, so he can tell the people and show them of the horrific crime which they committed to Ali al-Asghar. Ya Ahl al-Alam, ma dhanbu hadha al-Radi' أن يذبح في حجر أبيه. We say, O people of the world, O humanity, what sin has this infant committed to be slaughtered in the hands of his father on the day of Ashura? After Ali al-Akbar had been killed, Imam Hussein was standing outside the camp. He was left all alone and was preparing to go into the battlefield, until he was summoned from a call by his sister Zainab salamullahi alayha. When he came into the tent, he found his 6-month-old Ali al-Asghar crying. The child was dying of thirst. His poor mother Rabab's milk had dried up from the continuous thirst and hunger. She could not help the baby even with a drop of milk. For every mother out there, imagine you can't help your child. Imagine you can't feed your child. You can't take care of him. You can't be of assistance to him. Imam al-Hussein then lifted the child from the cradle. He said, "Oh Rabab, I will take him to Yazid's army. Surely they cannot possibly deny this little infant of a few drops of water." Imam Hussein thought these soldiers will feel some sympathy and compassion to the little child. So he took him to the battlefield, covering him with his robe and raising it up in his arms for everyone in the enemy's forces to see it. And he said, "Ya qawm, قد قتلتم إخوتي وأولادي وأنصاري." O people, you have killed my brothers, my children, and my supporters. وما بقي لدي إلا هذا الطفل. And I have nothing left except this child who is suffering from thirst, innocent of any wrongdoing, so give him a sip of water. There was no response. The Imam said, "If you are afraid that if you bring me Ali al-Asghar, I will drink from the water, you can take him and give him the water yourself. I will put him on the ground." It is said that the army split into two. Some of them didn't want to give Ali al-Asghar water, and some of them who had some sympathy towards this young child, they wanted to give him water.
Until Umar ibn Sa'd, he saw that. He shouted and ordered a stone-hearted man named Harmala to answer Hussein. Allahu Akbar. He said, Ya Harmala, انزع نزاع القوم. Ya Harmala, end this confusion, end this debate. Harmala said to him, Ma asna, what shall I do? He said, ارمي الطفل بسهم. Shoot him with an arrow. Harmala says, I looked at the child and I didn't know where to hit the arrow until I saw his neck shining. أجركم الله يا مؤمنين. يقول اللعين فرميت الطفل بالسهام فذبحته من الوريد إلى الوريد. Harmala says, I hit the child with a three-headed arrow to his neck. He slaughtered him from one side to the other until his blood gushed off the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein to Hussein's face. Ali al-Asghar died in his father's arms with a smiling face. Rahim Allah man nada wa shahida وعليا. والله كل المصايب يا ابني تغور ولمصيبتك بالقلب كانون فوق العطش بالسغم ما طعون. يا وليدي ولجدك ايش يقولون. All my troubles, my son, are easy, but your trouble in my heart is unlike any, Ya Ali al-Asghar. Above thirst they pierced you by an arrow. What will their reply be to your grandfather, Rasulullah? Ali al-Asghar left this dunya just like a beautiful angel. والله يا ناس يا ناس حتى الطفل مذبوح. دم على زند حسين مسفوح. Everyone together. Oh people, even the child is slaughtered and his blood on Hussein's spear is spilled. Where is the one who will come to help and console me? My heart is wounded and deep in sorrow. Imam al-Hussein throws the baby's blood to the sky. Imam al-Baqir says, not a single drop of that blood hit the ground. And the Imam prays to Allah to take revenge for what they have done to this young child. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. السلام عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله وعلى ولدك علي الأصغر ورحمة
ورحمة الله وبركاته. Let us recite the ziyarah of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Everyone together in a loud voice. Let our voices reach Karbala. Assalamu ala wa ala Ali وعلى أولاده وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى عقيلة الحسين زينب وعلى أخيها وكافلها بالفضل العباس ورحمة الله وبركاته. يا الله يا الله. Raise your hands for dua. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك بأحب الخلق إليك فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها ما تركت لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا سقما إلا شفيته ولا مريضا إلا وعافيته. يا الله اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك يا الله. جنبنا من معاصيك. ارحمنا برحمتك الواسعة يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم شافي كل مريض يا الله. اللهم فك قيد كل أسير. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمع القول فيتبع أحسنه يا الله. Brothers and sisters, there are a number of requests for dua to cure their beloved ones, everyone who is sick, everyone in need of our dua in this night. Let us recite the verse 5 times together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amman yujibu al-muttarra idha da'ah wa yakshifu as-su'. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه. أمن يجيب أمن يجيب اللهم اكشف السوء عنا وعن جميع المسلمين يا الله. اللهم ارحمنا برحمتك. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج والنصر والعافية ونحن في خير منك وعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة صلواتك فيها وقائدا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. For the souls of all our dead ones, our respected maraji and ulama, everyone who has left this dunya and the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Let us recite for their souls as Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha. But before it, a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.